Non, vas-y, vas-y, vas-y.
Sylvain, thank you very much for joining today. It's a pleasure to have you and to talk about the wine we created together. If you like to start a bit about presenting maybe yourself as a vigneron, just for the people who doesn't not familiar with you to just start to get to know you, and then the wines, your range, and especially your Bourgogne Aligoté, because this is what we're going to talk about today. You know what you do, your single vineyard vinification, winemaking process, and then what makes Bourgogne Aligoté the great variety and then really fun to work with. And yeah, just to introduce a bit yourself to us, if that's okay.
Very good. Good program. Big program. No, it's quite easy. I don't know, but I can't speak about Sylvain Pataille because it's not Sylvain Pataille today. It's Déjà Bu's winemaker. It's not the same. And why? Just because it's not the same. Just because Léa, brother and father, and Nico and Philippe, who are in Burgundy in the restaurant, often come to taste the wines and to select the batches. And you know, we are friends, and when I make wine for Léa, it's with a opinion, with a test, with something different than I could do at home directly from my own self. And my wines could be different. It could be a testing, maybe a testing. It could be interesting to organize it, but it's a bit different because we have not the same sensibility, and it's very interesting because Déjà Bu's wines are exclusive. You won't find them anywhere else. Just this. So we try them. We try different batches, different origins of grapes, and they select them. And after then, we blend them before bottling, and they are not the same than mine. The vinification is nearly the same with no sulfur, with a whole bunch with long pressings, but we have not the same testing and the same test, the same.
So yeah, this is why I said to people that we've been working on it for the past year. So we can, so we know each other from Les Aligotteurs, which is well, some who attended yesterday masterclass with Pablo and Florence. We talked a bit about it.
Yeah.
So we know each other through l'Aligoteur, and we really share that love for Bourgogne Aligoté, and then really wants the people to share that love to people, and then to get people to know more about that grape variety and what's possible to do with it. So Sylvain, you're part of that association as well. So this is how we met and how we started to work together. And for that project, the Aligotte, we thought that would be very a beautiful way to just embrace everything that we share, and just to make a nice cuvée for Déjà Bu wine. So you should have, so the people should have like the two sample of Aligotte here, and then Pinotte.
Which one?
Yes. So the grape, for the Aligotte, we're going to talk about it a bit more. So those grapes, Sylvain, the grapes selected. Can you talk a bit about the vineyards, where they come from, and how things worked there, and then how the winemaking process to make Aligotte goes on and just make sure.
So could you remember me the blend you chose with a bit of Marseille? Yeah, explain the blend, because all the wines were aged in big barrels in 600 liters or in foudre. I don't know the word, but you know there are big barrels of 4,000 and 8,000 liters, and your blend was
Meillet.
yeah, okay, very good. So it was a selection of the grapes, the vines in Meillet. You know, they are grown in Haute Côte de Nuits, just above Nuits Saint-Georges. They are very lovely places, but it's a bit fresher. It's much higher, 150, 200 meters higher than coast. Than Côte de Nuits and Vaudremanie, for example, it's just below, just above, and the vines were planted in the 70s, and they have always been organic because they were planted on a field, and the guy who has planted them has never converted to conventional culture. And they are made with large vines with very low yields. They are exceptional grapes. And with this vintage, with 19, it was a quite generous vintage with a very sweet aromas, with very yellow aromas. But as they are a bit higher, the ripeness was perfect, and they kept freshness and they kept energy. And this wine has been aged for 1 year in food and 3 months in tanks and just bottled. Yeah, that's all. It's quite simple, you know. For Aligoté, you quite. I think it's better to avoid aging, to avoid oak aging. When Chardonnay is very good when you keep them in recent oak, new oak, on less than 5 years oak. But for Aligoté, if you use too much small barrels that are perfect for Chardonnay, you seem to lose minerality, you seem to lose salinity. That is the character, that is just the identity of the variety. And this variety is so gorgeous when it makes you believe that the glass you have drunk is not quite, you have to drink a second one. It's Aligoté, it's this. And it's a very easy to drink wine and very pleasant. And it has to be like this, to be very saline, like Savagnin, like Muscadet, like Melon, like some old varieties like this that were built on bitterness. You know, they are a bit wild varieties. It's for this reason in the 70s, 80s, the Aligoté wasn't fashionable at all because it was too green. It's a period where people just were. They loved this period. They loved sweetness. They loved sugar. They loved grilled aromas like grilled bread, and it's the Parker period. It's not obviously bad, but it's finished. The fashion it's closed, and fortunately we prefer right now some fresh and drinkable wines like. In France, like Jacquer, like Vinho Verde in Portugal, like some very good wines that can be easy to drink. They have to be fresh, and we don't like anymore fat and generosity on high degrees. And you know, Aligoté can be maybe the best answer for climate changing because it's very surprising to see, to understand that it's never overwiped. It just waits for you. It waits for you to come to harvest. Chardonnay always goes up. The degrees, the alcohol is always increasing. Not Aligoté, just a bit. And it keeps freshness. It keeps tannins. That gives maybe the refreshing taste in you know, like when you add pepper on a dish and on a meal. And Aligoté for me is marvelous. And you know, it's a sponge to terroir. And I'd be very interested in testing and planting Aligotés somewhere else on Guanets in other countries. Chardonnay has been very fashionable, but it has completely hidden Aligoté that is so much better variety. It could be planted in south of France. It could be planted in Italy, in Spain, in California, and I'm sure that we are just seeing the birth of a new, the birth or maybe the rebirth of a new variety. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, it's really different in terms of Burgundy, like traditional style that we people associate Burgundy to, like the the oaky, very heavily oaky Chardonnay, or like the way that more things are made traditionally, like the Bourgogne Aligoté is another expression of Burgundy, white Burgundy, which is just has a lot of energy. It's much more than fun. And then, as you do as well with the Bourgogne Aligoté, you experiment in different ways, and then by blending or aging, and then different methods. And so, just to coming back to the our wine, Aligotte. So this is so we selected the Meillet, so which is haute côte, and then the you started, I think that year you started to age, maturate the Aligoté in big oak barrel foudre, which is like a 40-80 hectolitre barrel, so it's like it's huge. So Aligotte is come from that maturation process. Can you talk a bit about like the impact of that maturation process on the wine? I don't know if about like what makes the food maturation different, and then to keep the freshness, or the impact on the wood, and then about the Bourgogne Aligoté and Aligotte. So what we're tasting, what's the impact on the wine?
It's a very good answer. What food can give to the wine? And you know, when I was a student, when I was a 20 at home, I have learned my first period of as a 20 was at Laurent Fournier's father. It was in 1991, and Jean Fournier, so it's Laurent's father, was aging in food for the second part of. He was aging for the first part in small volumes, in pièces, in barrels, on the second year in food. And you know, it's maybe I've always seen food agings, and I know that it's a very slow, very soft aging, because there's less contact with the leaves, there's less contact with oxygen, because you know the wood is very wide, very deep, and you keep fruit, but there's a small evolution compared with stainless steel tanks where the aromas are completely stopped, they are blocked, and you obtain reductions, you obtain some, I can't say metallic taste, but it's nearly like this, you know? When you try the wine, if you could compare, you won't, because Aligotte was the first vintage in 19. But if you could compare with the same terroirs, the same Aligotés with 18s that were very ripe, very generous, very large, very complex, but a bit heavy wines because of 18 vintage, and they were nice, but they are not the style we like, and especially the style I want to look for. But I have aged 18s in stainless steel tank, in big tanks, and the wine seems to be not destroyed, but you know, it seems to be that there's no the same energy. And I've bought these old foods. They are very old. They were built in 1930 or 1950, so they are very old. And I've bought them to a friend who is white now, who is retired, and it was, you know, I was like a boy who was a new toy, a new, like Christmas, you know, having some old food like this, all big oak barrels that came from Marsanais, that come from Marsanais. So they had the same wines, you know. There's an identity. If you buy some, it's possible. You can buy some big barrels in Alsace with white wines, in south of France with Grenache, with Syrah. But imagine that the wood will keep the identity of the variety it has kept for many years, for at least 2, 3, 4 years. So your Pinot won't smell Grenache, but you will lose, you know, the brightness, you will lose the freshness, you will lose something, just because the wood is not like a tank. When you clean it, it's not completely clean. It has a memory. It's
Right.
it's an alive material, and it was great for me to buy those food in Marsanais at at I've bought them at Régis Bouvier. It's Bernard Bouvier's wine. Bernard Bouvier has bought the estate. He has bought Régis is Bernard's brother, so it's you maybe know Bernard, and he's an alligator. So it's for this reason I tell you his name, but it's very funny, and you know you can smell it. Accepted in a winery, to understand that food is a marvelous material, but that can keep qualities and defaults of the previous wine. If your wine is reducing, if the vintage before was reduced or had a bad fermentation or contamination with some for example, for the wets, if you have some contaminations by wets, the barrel will keep the memory of the wine it kept. It's very interesting, but you have to understand it, that it's not metal. And I love this. You know, the wine. And I didn't test Aligotte for 2 or 3 months, but I am testing it, and à la vôtre. And it's a bit warm. It's a bit generous. It's a wine that will change in your wine. The first 10 minutes in your glass won't be just to understand that it's not reduced anymore. With tank aging, especially with Aligoté from Côte de Nuits, that are strong, that are concentrated. The problem with stainless steel tank is that the wine is closed, it's stopped, and it needs at least 10-15 minutes in your glass to start to get to more complexity, to get to another step, to open. And with a big oak barrel, it's not like this. It's much finer and much softer. I love it, and I will develop it. I have I have invested very much in those barrels, and I will continue to be able to store at least one harvest. So I want to have 1,000 hectoliters of food.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this is so Aligotte has I think huge personality. Like it's you know it's much. There's a lot of complexity, a lot of aroma. So this is because of the maturation in the big oak. But we decided to add a bit of a press as well.
Yeah.
10%. So press is the second juice of the pressing process. And then if you can explain a bit more why that gives like this nice structure, and then a bit of a tannin feel, like, or like grippiness to the wine, which gives more like a kick to it. Can you tell us about it, to add like a bit of press? What does it add to the wine? And
it's a decision we took with Nicolas, who is Lea's brother, and by trying the different big old barrels and adding some presses I edge separately to permit them to be oxidized, to lose their tannins. And the very good presses are not, they are maybe not, I can't say fashionable, but in the style of current wines, everybody looks for maybe artificial minerality by harvesting grapes early. It's very common in the vineyards to harvest very early to keep freshness, to keep acidity. But for my mind, I've been an enologist before being wine grower, so I've tried many wines, and acidity due to early harvesting is never as good as minerality and freshness due to very alive soils, due to, I can't say biodynamic, but I can say grass, I can say microbiological life in the soil. We are very often coming back to the soil and to the plant when we speak about wine, because it's the start, it's the beginning. There's nothing without soil. And when most of wine growers, most of good wine growers always start in the vines and they make wine, but with very simple things. It's quite easy to make wine. If the grapes are good, if they are tasty, if have a good balance, a good acidity balance, it's perfect. And you don't have to control anything in the winery. You just have to be confident in your grapes. Just this. And it's completely, it's completely at the opposite of the technological enology that is quite common, but it's not my way. And I know to do it because I've been an enologist, but it's not my way at all. And to answer you, Leah, I think you have to keep freshness. I don't know. It's very complex, and especially fun to a screen. It could be so much easier to explain you after traveling half an hour in the vines, after smelling the soils, between different techniques of culture, between after trying young wines, old wines, and why we add presses. Presses usually are extracted and they are, they are mis de côté. Je sais pas comment on dit, Léa.
Put aside.
Huh?
They are put aside.
Yeah, it's good. But just because pH of presses is higher. And why is it higher? Just because when you have pressed, I don't know, but more than 80% of the volume on the grape, you just have some very rich and very tasty juice, but the acidity goes down because you extract some minerals from the grapes. You extract some potassium, you extract some calcium that make the acidity to go down. And the wine is a very small quantity of wine at the end of pressing is a bit fat, with low acidities, but with so much tannins and so much aromas that are very interesting. Just if you add some, some small bubbles.
It's like seasoning.
Yeah.
Your wine, yeah.
Like you could put salt in your meals, in your pot, in pastas. You can't imagine. It's like New York. I don't. When we read and speak and hear that New York is bad, yes, maybe. But who uses 100 or 200% of New York? Nobody. We just use a bit that gives something else. It shines with it. Pure, I'm sure I'm okay. It's too much and it's not interesting. But when you just add 5-10% of it, it's perfect. And the presses aged separately in small barrels to permit to have more oxygen, to oxidize the tannins that could be that could give bitterness, that could give some bad and a bit oxidized aromas. But after oxidization with no sulfur, they disappear, and they have so much aromatic complexity with pear aromas, with exotic fruits aromas, with more and more people love skin contact and maceration white wines. And what is the typical aromas? What are the typical aromas of maceration wines, of orange wines? Just skin aromas. They don't smell juice, they smell skin. And it's just what you extract in a small percentage of press we have used for Lea's wine. And it's for this reason this wine is so expressive. And so just a very small part of press just before bottling has completely changed the wine. It was a very good idea of Nico.
Yeah. It gives it like a really it completes, I'll say, the aromatic of the wine, and then gives like really like a punchy and fun energy, and then a big personality. Like it's you drink it, it's just like it's not any wine. You really have like a big personality behind it. Harry had a question. Could Aligoté be grown in the UK?
Of course, yeah. It depends on the place, because the natural acidity and the metabolism of Aligoté is a bit slower than Chardonnay. So Aligoté is acidity is a bit higher. So it can be great for sparkling wines. For still wines, it depends on the place. It has to be planted in a stony, chalky place, and quite early and quite warm. It has to be warm. For UK, it has to be warm, because south of UK is quite high in the limit of the vine culture. But for sparkling wines, it can be exceptional.
Like sparkling wine with Aligoté, yeah.
You have some visit, Harry. He wants to come. And to explain what I've just told, you could try some Céline Laurent tripos in Macon, who makes some incredible bubbles with Aligoté.
Yeah,
they are incredible. You couldn't believe it's not Crémant, and it's just my opinion, but it's so much better than most of Crémant of Bourgogne, and with us Aligoté sparkling, 100% Aligoté sparkling.
Exciting.
If you want to drink some, you have to go in Bois Rouge in Gilles. It's Lias father restaurant, where we sometimes go. We can't answer. We can't tell you all the story of all the evenings and parties we met there. It's secret. It's in Aligoteur's office.
The headquarters of the Aligoté. Should we talk about the red then, the Pinotte? Just so we don't go on. So this red is more it's come from the grapes come from Marsanais. So this is more the appellation you are make for your wine from as well.
They were from those terroirs have changed. The appellation has changed in 19, and those ones are 18s. And a part of this wine has been converted in Marsanais. Les Champforés have been classified as village appellation. They are made of a part is made of alluvial cone of gravels from the comb, and the other part is made of clay plus des limon. Some very soft and sandy soils in the bottom of the slope. When you dig in this place, there's 40-50 centimeters of quite strong soil that seems to be heavy, that seems to be clayey, but in the undersoil there is sand because there has been Dixit Françoise Vanier, who is a friend, who is a very good geologist, viticole. She makes geology to classify vineyards, and she's very good, and she's passionate of wine and of stones and soils. Françoise Vanier. You can, if you want to, you can find some interviews on YouTube, on Google. I'm sure if you write Françoise Vanier, you can find some very interesting things about geology, about Burgundy with geology and other ones, because she has studied some soils for wine growers in Japan, in Chile, in Argentina, everywhere. She's incredible, and she's very nice. And if you dig just 40-50 centimeters, you find some sand that was carried by an old river, a typical river from Burgundy that is called Louche, but at this period it was going just below Marsanais. And it's a very, very... Une période très ancienne, en fait. Léa, tu convertis, tu traduis.
In very ancient time, I would say.
Ouais, plusieurs centaines, millions d'années, ouais.
So, thousand millions of years ago.
Voilà. And so we are talking about Pinotte. You know, 18 has been a bit strange and maybe, I can't say difficult, maybe difficult, but it was a vintage it was a vinification with many dangers. High degrees, but not so high. Mines were just 13, 25, 13s, 14s, but with very high season. And I don't know if the yeast had been burnt or fragilized, or if the nutriments were too low, or if the sun has an influence on fermentation. I don't know. But the fermentations in 18 were, especially for guys like me who vinify with whole bunch. And whole bunch means fermentation in the skin and in the berry. And whole bunch means that you don't liberate the juice very early. So it means that if the yeast are a bit tired, a bit, at the end of fermentation, the bacteria want to beat them and to take the place. And when you liberate juice after pressing with sugar, because you didn't explode the berries at the beginning of the fermentation, and when you try to finish the last 10, 20, 30 grams of sugar with natural yeast, with no sulfur, it was very difficult. So you could have some risk of acetic acid, of boits, of lactic problems. And it has been a very difficult vintage, but it was successful. I think we had understood all the problems we could have. And the result is a much fresher vintage than we could believe in. And I think it's a very good value for aging. If you can store some wine in 18, do it. Drink 17s, but keep some because they are great. Drink 14s, and maybe drink 19s, but 18 is a very good value. And this wine is a Bourgogne, so it has kept his freshness, his elegance. It has kept. It's a very large vintage, but due to the vines that are, or maybe due to the soils of clay in the bottom of the slope, they haven't been too much thirsty, and it has slowed a bit the maturity, and it has permitted to keep the freshness. The village on potential premier crus in the middle of the slope that are located on the gravels, and gravels are obviously much warmer and much drier because water goes down very quickly. But the best terroirs in 18 are much less fresh. They are much warmer, much darker, And this wine is one of the most drinkable of my range, thanks to these terroirs.
Yeah, Pinotte is very fresh and easy drinking. But you still have that structure because of the way there's a bit of whole bunch to make like a nice texture and complexity that makes draw the bones, the skeleton of the wine, which is just, I mean, I'm really I'm very happy with what we did with Pinotte as well. It's really alive. I think it's like a gourmand and alive wine that it's this way I say, it's like with Pinotte and Aligotte, it's another Burgundy. This is more like the dynamic Burgundy, like just to experiment new things and then just to break the rules a bit from what the established Burgundy do, and then to try something else, and then to have like a nice project as well together. But yeah, that's so we have just a question: how long after opening the bottle will it keep?
In French, I would answer this wine is a vanguard à boire tout de suite.
Yeah.
So you have to translate. No,
so
it's quite easy. It's a joke, but it's just to say that it's a wine to be aged, but to be drunk right now. And it's a bit like, I'm convinced that Bourgogne, a village appellation, has to be easy to drink because it will be sold to cavists, to wine bars, to eventually restaurants, but it will be sold quite quickly. When we ship the pallets and the boxes, the shops will sell them, and you will buy them to your cavist, you will buy them to Lea, you will buy them. So you will drink some quite early, and you'll maybe keep a few bottles. I know how I do with my wines. The wines I prefer are often drunk too early because they are so good. So why keeping them? But with this wine, you can drink them this evening, or in 10, 15 years, it won't move. And in 20 years, it will still be good. I know my wines. I know even the lightest ones can be kept for a long time. We could drink my first vintage 99. It's still fresh because of loyals, long macerations. When you macerate 3 weeks in the tanks, it's a classical vinification, but with all bunch, you concentrate your wines and you give them complexity, and as this way, I try to extract very softly. I love whole bunch, and in 18, I've used very much some because I wanted to give freshness, to give length, to give food, to give energy by the stems due to the tannins, due to the minerality of stems that gives some minerals. But just to try to catch acidity, to catch virtual acidity, because if you make analysis, pHs are very high. But we don't mind with analysis. You don't call the laboratory to know if your pH is quite good to be done. What you smell is so much more important. Your glass is.
So yeah, so Harry is just so you keep in the cellar for a very long time, but it's to drink as soon as possible when it's open.
Yeah. You can keep it, but you can drink it very quickly. Yeah. And it's for this reason I make long agings. It's for this reason I never bottle a wine that isn't ready to drink, because I know that we don't store the wines. Vintners don't store them quite long. Consumers neither, and you have no cellars anymore like our grandfathers had. And they were keeping the bottles for 20 years at least, and it was a shame because they were always drinking some, not all of them, but they were often drinking some dead wines because you know, they had to drink the oldest ones, and the times they go to the youngest, they were old. And I love this style, and I love this way of drinking wine, because you can drink them quickly, and you can maybe be sure that it has been too early. But if it's too early, if you open the first bottle, if it's closed because it's too young, you just wait for the box, and if it's very good, you drink it. And you know, it's a Bourgogne. It's a Bourgogne. It's not a Chambertin. It has to be an easy to drink wine. I want it to be complex due to the harvest, due to the yields that are very low, due to the terroirs, due to maybe the nearly 15 years of biodynamic. But yeah, it's not because it's the cheapest wine of my range that it has to be simple. I want it to be a baby village. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, Pinotte is absolutely delicious. So I don't know what you think, people, with the samples you have, but yeah, just brilliant. Well, I think it's become the end of our session, Sylvain. We're going to give maybe 10 minutes break to people to take a break before the next Zoom. So thank you very much. Sorry, you're not on the screen anymore. Sylvain?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about Pinotte and Aligotte today. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I look forward for many vintages with you.
And thank you, everybody, to join us today, because it was a great pleasure. I would so much prefer to be with you in UK, but it's maybe possible when the real life will start again. And at the opposite, if you want to come in Burgundy, don't hesitate to come at home and to show you the wines. And it was really interesting today because, you know, I wanted Leah, his father and brother are good friends, very good friends. And, you know, their wines, it was a very good, it was a very, very nice adventure, because she wanted to start, and I have just opened my winery, and by saying them, do what you feel. It's not Sylvain Pataille wines. I will just do what you want to do. So when you try Pinotte and Aligotte, it's Léa, Nico, and Philippe, and it's very interesting for us to work together. And I am just Léa's winemaker. That's all.
Thank you, Sylvain. Thank you, merci.
Yeah.
Voilà. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And well, see you soon.